Hello, everyone. We are back with yet another episode of Superannuated Starman. This is episode 48.
Mario!
And this September marked the third year that we've been doing this podcast. And guys, I gotta say, thank you both so much. It's been amazing. I'm so glad to be doing this. And I hope that we keep on doing this. So, who am I and who am I thanking? Well, I'm Sean Ryan, and I'm joined by Chris Duerksen and Cory Braucks. Guys, how are you doing?
Mario!
If it hasn't been made crystal clear, we're going to be covering Luigi's Mansion. So, with that out of the way, let's take a short break. And when we come back, we're going to cover the history of this amazing game. Back in November of 2001, Nintendo launched the GameCube in North America, and its launch lineup has one particular title, an action-adventure game known as Luigi's Mansion. This was the first game in the Mario franchise on the system, and the third time that Luigi was the main character instead of his older brother Mario. The two other titles being Mario is Missing for the SNES and Luigi's Hammer Toss, a Game Watch game that was the first to have Luigi as the sole player. The game was first revealed at Nintendo Space World 2000 as a tech demo to show off the graphical capabilities of the GameCube. Shortly after the reveal, Nintendo decided to take the concept of a terrified Luigi running from ghosts and expand that concept into a full-fledged game. A year later, it was shown at E3 alongside the GameCube, and then a near final release was revealed at Nintendo Space World 2001. Sitting at the helm as the director was Hideki Kono, who was no stranger to the Mario franchise as he worked on Super Mario Bros. 2, 3, World, Super Mario Kart, and Yoshi's Island, just to name a few, in various roles in each game. Beside him filling the producer roles were Takashi Tezuka and none other than Shigeru Miyamoto. The amazing music was composed by Shinobu Tanaka and the legendary Kazumi Totaka, and of course, the game contains the now infamous Totaka song. It can be found by waiting on the controller configuration screen at the training room for 3.5 minutes. Luigi and Mario were voiced by Charles Martinet, Toad by Jennifer Taylor, who, if you don't recognize the name, was the same voice for Cortana in the Halo series. And lastly, though uncredited, Totaka was the voice for Professor Egad. The game was well received by critics and fans. It is the most successful GameCube launch and was the best-selling game of November 2001. It went on to be the 5th best-selling GameCube in the US, followed by Smash Bros. Melee, Mario Kart Double Dash, Mario Sunshine, and of course, The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker.
I'm honestly kind of sad Sunshine got more sales than this, because this and Sunshine are kind of like the two Mario games for the console, right? And I think this one is just so much more charming.
Oh, yeah, I absolutely agree. I'm not a big fan of Sunshine despite... See, like every Mario game kind of adds something new, and I don't
Right.
feel that Sunshine was really that exciting.
I mean, Flood has nothing on like the Ghostbuster.
No, absolutely not. In fact, if anything, it's just the inverse of the Poltergeist. But all that said, the game was lauded for its refreshing ideas, interesting mechanics, and beautiful visuals, but did receive some criticism based on the game's shorter length. And though it never got a direct sequel on the GameCube, in 2013, Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon was released on the Nintendo 3DS, and would later get ported to the Switch in June of 2024. While the original never made its way to the Switch, it was remade for the 3DS and released in October of 2018. 1 year later, the third installment of the franchise would land on the Nintendo Switch. There's this interesting leapfrogging of games from console to console, but it doesn't look like we're ever going to get all three on the same console. At least, not in this generation.
You have to wait for that 30th anniversary bundle.
I'm here for it. I can wait. I love this game, but we're going to talk more about that. But I want to talk briefly about the game's story and the premise behind it. So, our game begins with Luigi receiving a notification that he's won an entire mansion in a contest that he didn't actually enter. Deciding to check it out with his brother Mario, the two agree to meet up outside the mansion, but Mario is nowhere to be found. Upon entering the terrifying mansion, Luigi is attacked by a ghost and promptly saved by an elderly professor, Professor Elvin Gadd, or EGAD for short. Professor EGAD arms Luigi with the Poltergust 3000 vacuum and the Game Boy Horror and sends him on his way to capture the spirits of the mansion and rescue his brother from the clutches of King Boo, who has trapped him inside of a portrait. I didn't find a ton of history on this game, but one pretty unique or interesting thing that I did found was that allegedly the cover for Luigi's Mansion takes inspiration from the movie poster for Home Alone. And for you guys, I'm about to drop that in the Discord so you can check it out.
That's going to be the fact of the day right there.
So, unless either of you have anything, I think we can close this out and start talking about our memories of the game.
Sounds good.
All right, folks. Well, stick around, and when we come back, we're going to talk about our memories of Luigi's Mansion. Welcome back, everyone. I hope you enjoyed that music. Cory, you were the one that actually chose this game, so I've got some questions for you. Did you pick this game because it has a special place in your heart, or because it's that time of year, being October, it's a spooky game, and maybe you just thought it was thematically important?
Yes to everything. So this game is very charming and wonderful, and I do love it dearly. But it is also a spooky game, so it lined up very well in that regard.
So, what are your thoughts about it? When did you pick it up? Did you own a GameCube? Was this the first title you bought? Did you get it at launch? I want to hear the whole story about like your GameCube saga.
I'm not sure when the GameCube released. It was probably like November or something, I'm sure. But I ended up getting one for Christmas, and this is one of the titles that I received with it. So I did get this shortly after the launch cycle because this was one of the launch titles, and I like fell in love with it. It's such a wonderful title, and honestly, Luigi doesn't get enough credit for his work in the series, and like getting to play Luigi is just such a wonderful thing. And he's a big scaredy cat, and even though he's freaked out the entire time, he powers through and saves his brother is kind of the whole premise of the game. And it's so fun, and the controls were something that I've never seen before. So I end up getting this and playing through it. The way you play is you basically have to use your flashlight to stun ghosts, and then you use your poltergust, which is just a vacuum cleaner, to suck them up and capture them and then store them in a tank, Ghostbusters style. There's a big Ghostbusters theme throughout the entire thing. But it's such a crazy mechanic because you basically have to use I think it's a C stick on the GameCube, and you have to point the poltergust with the C stick, and you have to drag back with your joysticks to capture the ghost. And if the ghost breaks your line of sight or you crash into something, you end up like getting stunned, and you have to finish the process basically. And it's such a cool mechanic. So I ended up playing through, and I think I beat it. Like every Mario game, there are various completion levels, so you can just play through the campaign, or you can, go for like the 100-star rating. And in this version, it's when you get all 100 boos, and they all have charming names like Boobert or Boobery or Burietta. Like everyone's got a stupid Boo themed name, so it's a really fun thing. And I distinctly remember sitting down and playing this and just being very charmed by it. You know, I understand the complaints about the length of it because you can probably beat this in like 2 hours if you know exactly where everything is in the game. But if you're a first time player, you're just kind of wandering around in this mansion, and it's a pretty sizable mansion. So there's, I think, 4 or 5 floors. There's a basement. There's a little outdoor area because there's like a playground and a graveyard and stuff in the back. Like it's a pretty big game. And even though the levels are, or the rooms are all small, and you're just exploring this giant thing, like if you don't know what you're doing and you're learning and playing through and kind of taking in the experience, I distinctly remember spending at least like 8 hours in this game the first time through. So I really don't understand the complaint about the length of it, because it's fun, and there's replayability to it because you can go for the 100% rating, and there's all the little secrets, and like you find all the little like bits and pieces of Mario's wardrobe, and there's like little lore items and stuff throughout. So it's a fun, charming game, and I just really remember like a lot of just joyous hours playing through it as a kid.
What color was your GameCube?
It was silver.
Oh, okay. All right. Fancy kid. Chris, did you have any history with this game?
Unfortunately, not.
Oh, silver was, sorry, Chris. Silver was not the default. That's right. I totally spaced on that. Yeah, the default was that like weird, like off blue color,
It was
wasn't it?
purple.
Oh, was it
Purple was
purple?
like
All right.
the color.
Okay. Yeah, I had a silver edition. Sorry.
I did not have a GameCube at all, so
Did you ever see anybody else play it, or maybe play it in someone else's house?
nope. Legitimately had zero experience with this game at all. The closest thing I got is Smash Brothers, where there's the Luigi's Mansion level. That is it. I've never seen it. I've never watched playthroughs.
Dude,
I've
that's
never
wild.
interacted with this game in any way.
Because it's the only one on the game. I mean, I suppose not having a GameCube would do it, but it's really the only one of the two like adventure titles for Mario. Everything else is like just the MacGuffin stuff, like Mario Tennis, Mario Strikers, Mario Golf.
And well, and to be fair, like when this came out, what 2001?
Yeah,
I really wasn't playing a whole lot of console games at that time, and
getting more into Counter-Strike, huh?
Quake 2, but that's also about the time where I kind of took a break from playing games as a kid. Like I got really into playing music and skateboarding. So the only game I was really playing in 2001, 2002 was Tony Hawk, like
Oh, my
Grand Theft Auto
ankle.
3.
Yeah, at the time, you and I were like juniors and seniors.
Yeah, so this was kind of about time where I wasn't playing a whole lot of Nintendo, and took a pretty long gap before I started playing console games again. Yeah, so I've got absolutely no experience with this. My friends that did have GameCubes, we were playing Smash Brothers on, so yeah, I've got absolutely nothing to add to the childhood memories of this game.
An acceptable choice of game.
Oh man, GameCube Smash Brothers was the best.
So I oh well, you know what, we talked about Smash Brothers to death, but I'm going to talk about the GameCube a little bit before I go into Luigi's Mansion because I owned the black one, but I didn't get the GameCube right away. Instead, my younger brother did, and I watched him play this game. I didn't so much play it myself because, very similar to Chris, I was doing other things at that time of my life. Like I said, I was a junior or senior in high school. I had I was getting ready to join the military, so I had other things going on for me. But what I do remember of it was just I was just so impressed about the lighting and the shadows and how much more immersive this game felt than anything on the Nintendo 64 did. I also like the fact that Luigi was the star of the show and not Mario for once. And as you guys know, we did a whole show about it. I'm a huge fan of the Super Mario Brothers Super Show, and I like that they gave them separate personalities. And it was kind of in that show that you saw that Luigi was a little more cowardly than Mario. And I don't know if they took inspiration from that, but they really leaned into it with this game and made Luigi this reluctant hero. He has to go rescue his brother and can't rely on the one person that he normally does. So I think the story was pretty basic by, most game standards, but it was great for a Mario game.
It's just executed so well.
And it's definitely different from every previous Mario game.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that's another thing that I really enjoy about it is that it is this game where you're taking the Mario characters, but you're not jumping on Goombas, you're not throwing turtle shells. You're doing something completely off the wall, which is very
Mm-hmm.
Nintendo.
Yeah, I mean, I'll talk about this when we talk about current playthroughs. Can't really chime in on childhood stuff, but this does not feel like a Mario game.
I don't know. I would have to, you know what? Let me think about that a little bit.
It definitely feels like a Mario Universe game, but it does not feel like
In the running,
there's no
jumping, platforming.
there's no platforming, there's no blocks to smash, like you said, there's no Goombas to kill.
Power-ups are
And
so-
I'm
different.
okay with that.
Yeah.
I like that they gave Luigi his own game. It wasn't just a reskin of your typical 3D platformer. It
Yes.
was Luigi's game with him as the star, and I think it worked really, really well. And
Could you imagine if this was just Mario 64, but you had magic ghost shoes that you had to jump on ghosts to like get rid of them?
yeah, I'd be. I think looking back on it now, if I, kn- I think looking back on it now, if I knew that this game was a possibility and they instead went with just rehashing Mario 64, I'd be pissed off. But I don't really have too much more to say about the game because I wasn't the one playing it. I would occasionally see my brother playing it, and he was into it, and I know for a fact that he beat it. It was a good memory for that time in my life to just kind of be like, oh, cool, he beat this game, which I can't really remember many games that he beat. I'm sure he beat a ton, but just I was never around for it. So that itself is a pretty positive memory.
Nice.
I would like to list off a few of the Boo names because they're
Your
funny.
favorites and best of?
So there's Bamboo, there's Bootha. This guy's name is Game Boo Advance. There's Boolicious, there's Turboo, there's Boolala, Kung Boo, Peekaboo, Gumboo, Boomio, Boodalicious, Booligan, Beauregard, Boonswoggle, Boohoo, Shamboo, Booris, Booigi, Little Boo Peep, Booby Hatch, Boorapedes, Boomerang. Like they're just
They had a
so
lot of fun with the boo
they're
names.
so silly, and there's 100 of these.
I think Chris really nailed it, where they definitely had some fun coming up with all these names.
I wonder what they are in Japanese. Do
Oh, I
you
wonder
think,
if they translate
you
the same
think
way.
they translate in a similar
Yeah.
way?
That's a great point. And let's go ahead and take a break. Cory, if you don't mind looking that up, and we'll come back with our modern day playthrough.
All right, welcome back, everyone. Just a quick bit of trivia. So I went and looked about the Boo character. Fun fact, Boo in Japanese is actually named Teresa because that is in Japanese it means to be shy. So all the Boos in Japanese are spin-off names of the name Teresa. So one of them is named like instead of like Bootha, it's Toretta. So they're just a bunch of like honorifics like that instead.
So I'm trying to find it, but if I remember correctly, the Boo concept was actually based off of one of the developer's wife, who was extremely shy herself.
Okay.
Oh, that's kind of cute.
They were like they first came out in Super Mario 3 and they were named Boo Diddley. And then they were renamed as Teresa at some point.
So, like I was saying, according to this article that I'm reading, and this is told from Shigeru Miyamoto, he was doing an interview with Nintendo Power, and he said that Tezuka, which is the developer that made the Boo, his wife is this very quiet, very shy person. But one day she just exploded with rage because she was so mad about her husband and all the time he spent at work. And that was kind of the significance of Boo, that you had this very quiet, shy character that hid behind his hands. And then he had this mood change where he would go after Mario.
I'm sure that's exactly how she wanted to be immortalized.
Well, don't make her mad.
Yeah, when you look at it that way, that's definitely not ideal. But Chris, why don't you tell us about your playthrough of this game? How'd you play it, and what are some of your thoughts?
All right, so my modern day memories of playing this, I was playing on a 2DS, and I was kind of underwhelmed by this game. It was kind of boring. The gameplay was good and everything. It looks good and it's cool. And it has a nice little silly, spooky Halloween vibe to it. And I enjoyed the atmosphere and the storytelling of it and all. And the fact that it is not like your other Mario games. But as far as a game by itself, it was kind of boring. And the way I was thinking of it is like if I were playing this game and it wasn't tied to a Mario title, I wouldn't be playing it. Like if it was just, Luke and Chuckles got a mansion and they had to find each other, and this would not be a game that I'd be playing.
So I got a question for you, Chris. Have
Yeah.
you ever played Luigi's Mansion 3 that came out for the Switch designed for it?
No, this is the only Luigi's Mansion game I've ever played.
I have a question for you.
No, I don't want to. You're gonna burn me.
Why do you hate fun?
See, one, like I said, I'm sure like if I had played this back in when it came out, and if I had nostalgia for it, I would probably feel differently. But I've got no ties to this game, and
I wonder if the console has anything to do with it. But other than that, I'm surprised to hear you say that, because I think this is just such a charming little romp of an adventure.
I'm gonna talk a little bit more about the controls when it comes to my time, but I could understand that being an influence. But Chris, what about it was boring? Was there not enough going on? Were the puzzles not stimulating enough?
right, just that it's very simple gameplay, which was nice. Like yeah, there wasn't a whole lot of action, and if you count the sucking up ghosts and stuff as action, like the action was very tame. I mean, obviously, it's not like we were talking about how it's not like any other Mario game, but like this is probably the calmest, tamest Mario game I've ever played, if that makes sense.
I see that. Did you happen to play with your kid?
No, no, he like he was checking out, he was watching me play a little bit, but like it didn't hold his attention either. Every time I boot it up, he was like, "Are you playing Luigi's Mansion?" I'm like, "Yep." He's like, "Okay," and then walk away. And I mentioned before, he's really into Smash Brothers, and he likes the Luigi's Mansion level and stuff like that. So he recognized, like the first time I was playing it, he knew it was Luigi's Mansion from the Smash Brothers level. But besides that, like he didn't have any interest in. I asked him if he wanted to play it, and he didn't. So I just left it at that.
I can't believe what I'm hearing. I'm genuinely shocked about all this. So, Chris, I'm cutting your mic off, and I'm gonna talk about my replay because I had a blast.
I'm genuinely baffled.
I will admit now, like I said, I had no experience playing this game before. I had
No,
no
it's fine.
expectations.
So okay,
No,
my
hang on, let me add on what
okay.
I had no idea what to expect, but this was nothing like I was expecting. Like, I mean, yes, I've seen the pictures of Luigi wearing a vacuum cleaner, so I knew it was going to be something kind of like that. But I thought it was going to be more like well, I mean, what's the is that Mario Sunshine with a water gun where
Yes,
like we were
Mario
talking about earlier?
Sunshine's the one with flood
I
on.
thought it might be a little bit more like that or something, but this was it felt like it could have been like a point and click game.
What? Okay, were you surprised that it wasn't a platformer?
Yeah, a little bit. Like I thought there'd be like some sort of like ghost houses from SNES kind of vibes where you got like jump over pits or something, or I just didn't know what to expect. I didn't
Chris is
expect it
mad
to
we
be
didn't
such-
play Super Ghouls and Ghosts.
I thought no, I expected this to be more of a platform and less of a slow walk around exploring game.
This is horrible. Okay, I'm going to talk about mine now. So, I played it on the 3DS as well, and to be fair, I wish I had busted out a Wii to play this because while the controls are acceptable, they never quite feel natural. But the game itself, it looks great even on the smaller screen. The 3D is immersive and it looks phenomenal. And I could gush about the 3DS forever. I still remember buying it on launch day and how amazing that was, but that's a whole other discussion. The gameplay is very simplistic compared to most of the other games we played, but I like it. I could just walk around the mansion and casually suck up ghosts. So I guess this is as good a time as any to really talk about the mechanics. And Cory kind of laid it out. There is some it can get difficult because, like you said, you have a flashlight and you have to flash the ghosts, but they're not always going to be in your line of sight. So you will have to spin around, flash one, and then maybe go get a different one while you try to maneuver Luigi and suck them up both at the same time. And it can be a little hectic, and you can die pretty easily in this game if you don't perform well.
Yes.
Chris, did that happen to you? Were you
Yes.
getting screwed up?
Yeah, well, I mean, a little bit, yeah, especially when you had multiple ghosts all at the same time. But it felt like the game, in between those encounters, the game was very quiet, and then all of a sudden you go in a room, and then you have like your one event where you get to do all that stuff, and then it goes quiet again. But yes, I see what you're saying.
I don't think Chris was moving around enough. You just shaking drawers in a room with lights on the whole time?
I mean, I probably. Well, how long is this game? Like a 3-hour, 4-hour game?
Let me look at the speed runs. But yeah, it's probably like a 5 to 6 hour title.
The speed runs are insane.
Yeah, the
like
glitch
especially
ones.
the glitch ones.
Well, let me try to find like a glitchless.
Well, I've seen some of the glitch ones are like the speed runs are like 41 minutes or something like that. But I mean, I probably only got maybe quarter of the way through this game.
Wow,
Oh my god, you didn't even bother beating it?
Nope.
Oh,
that's so depressing.
Opinion
I thought we were
invalidated.
waiting for Chris to finish too. I was like,
No, we were
I
just
was
waiting
like,
for.
yeah, it's like
we were
a
just waiting to
month.
So
record.
did I.
Wow, we could have done this like 3 weeks ago.
Chris, I know we're dogpiling on you right now. It's all right. We'll get through this.
I knew you would because I know
It's
you
fine. I
guys-
mean, it's fine. Everyone's entitled to a wrong opinion. Anyway, I want to point out really quick though. So the 100% run world record is somewhere in the range of an hour on console. The 3DS version is 2 hours.
My
So
God.
I think the controls have a significant factor to play in that.
Oh wow, are you serious?
Yeah, it takes double the time to do it on a 3DS.
Now, I wonder why that is. Okay,
Because
so
it's just so much harder to aim, I'm assuming.
I did. That was super frustrating because like when I was playing on 3DS, like once you start charging up your flash or sucking, like you're pretty much stuck in that one direction unless you like.
I learn how to wiggle them sticks, bro.
Well, and you could switch over down to the D-pad and to move around your aim once you're holding it. But if you're doing that, then you weren't walking around at the same time. It was kind of not ideal.
Yeah, I think the controls have something significantly to do with that. Because if you're, because I remember like, I mean, sorry, I'm cutting in on Sean's business here, but like specifically when you had the GameCube controller, you could use the C stick and the joystick on the left to move around and aim your nozzle, and then you just had to hold one of the shoulder buttons to continue the suction. So like you were very mobile on like console.
Yeah, and I don't know if the Circle Pad Pro, I think it's called, that like additional thumbstick that you can buy for the 3DS. I don't know if that adds any functionality to this game because I don't own one of those. So maybe that would make things easier, but who knows? Who knows why it's an hour difference? It could be because it's technically a different game.
Possibly. I also see people are using the Japanese version for the console speed runs that might be like being able to skip dialogue faster.
So for those of you that don't know what he's talking about, kanji, through Japanese kanji, they are able to get through the dialogue options much faster than like the North American English releases. So a lot of speedrunners will pick games in Japanese specifically for that.
Mm.
But back to the game in my playthrough, it's just so charming, and especially this time of year, it's just this nice little Halloweeny kind of vibe, and it's a lot of fun. And I really enjoy that each like room is its own little diorama, basically, where I go in, I suck up a couple ghosts, I'm looking for a bunch of cash, and then I move on. I'm okay with that because it's not a very cerebral game. I'm not doing a whole bunch. I'm just know that I have to get from point A to point B, beat the boss, move to the next area, beat that boss, and go from there.
Mm-hmm.
I wish that there was some more music, but what there is, I think, is pretty great. I think it captures a really classic, almost Scooby-Doo like kind of vibe, if you know what I mean.
Do 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 Mario.
And on that note, I love listening to Luigi hum along in tune to the music. And a little bit of trivia, his humming will change based on his health.
Nice little detail.
Yeah, it gets much more ragged and like and faster. He goes like when he's injured versus like do 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 do.
That's just such a great touch to a game. I
It
love
is a
it.
very nice little.
And I have no complaints about the length of the game. I thought it was great. Not too long, not too short. Very acceptable for me at this point in my life because especially doing this show with you guys, I just played through it at a very casual pace, took a few hours, and I had a good time with it.
So if this one put me asleep, the other ones will also keep putting me
Just
asleep.
play Luigi's Mansion 2 and 3 because that's basically what happens.
Yeah, so Luigi's Mansion 2, instead of one mansion, there are several mansions, and Luigi's Mansion 3 is like an Uber mansion.
I will admit there were plenty of times where I was playing this and I was nodding off while I was playing it, like
Oh
even in
my
the middle of
god.
yeah.
You know what? You didn't like Ace Attorney either. You thought that game was a complete chore to play.
Yeah. You guys got me pegged.
Apparently.
Well, okay, Mr. Action, Mr. Jurassic Park. Okay, I guess that we
Wow.
we all sometimes have a dud for Chris. For Corey, it's Luigi's Mansion. For me, it was Ace Attorney.
Dialogue? How dare you?
There you go.
For Chris, it's half of what he picks for me. Chris has picked some bangers. I think you're the one that gave us NBA Jam.
I love that game. Oh my god,
Come on, Snake.
man, I might
Welcome
play
to
that
the
a little
jungle.
bit. Anyway,
Yeah,
anyways,
that is one game I will still always throw on.
it's classic. Let's finish off our thoughts on Luigi's Mansion. So, Corey, how about you bring it in? Tell us what it was like to replay Luigi's Mansion in 2024, 23 years after it came out.
That's wild. I don't like thinking about that. But no, so I booted this up for the modern play, and it's still Luigi's Mansion, and it's still great. And I don't understand where Chris is coming from because it's this. Here's the thing that bothers me is that this is like a really well done Mario game, and like the controls are wonderful. It's functional. Everything is really like streamlined, and there's no like real glitches or anything going on with this. And then so I'm looking now. So you guys both played on a handheld, correct?
Correct.
In the remake, they even added little touches in, like your bottom screen will show your Game Boy Horror console when you're using the Game Boy Horror to like mouse around or like look around and look at the room. So the bottom screen looks like you're holding like a Game Boy when you use the two screens for the 3DS. So that's like a cool little touch. But no, I think it's a really great game. And so we were talking about a lot about like set design and things like that. The rooms in this game are all super incredibly detailed, and every one of these little rooms is its own mini level basically, because what you're doing in this game is you're running halls looking for ghosts, and in between all the hallways you jump into all these rooms, like you'll find the billiards room or the ballroom or the conservatory, and each one of these rooms is themed, and you're finding a different ghost in there. So the first couple of ghosts you find dad, and then you find mom, and then you find like the first boss, which is like this giant mega baby.
Oh my gosh.
And each one of those gets triggered. Go ahead, Chris.
So Gibbs did have the pleasure. He happened to be walking by when I started that fight, and he's like, "What's with that baby?"
That's a big baby.
Oh no, he's like, "Is that a dead baby?" I was like,
It's a ghost.
it's a ghost baby." He's like, "So does that mean it died?" I was like,
So yeah, it's a dead baby.
"Yeah,
Sorry,
yeah,
dude.
it's a weird dead baby."
Anyway, so every one of these so one more thing I should mention. There's three kinds of ghosts in this game. They're very generic ghosts, which are just like guys that look like your standard 1940s cartoon ghosts. Like it's the sheet with the little weird peaked head,
Yeah.
and they just go wow, rah, 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 and they just kind of yell at you, and you beat them up, and you suck them into your ghost machine. And then there are the themed ghosts, because this mansion is like full of, dead spirits. And every time you find one of those, it's like a different person. Like I said, mom, dad, the baby, there's a butler, there's a cook, like there's the fat uncle, like sitting at, the buffet table that throws fireballs at you. They're all themed ghosts, and like those ones you capture and you stick them in portraits, like a la Ghostbusters. You plug your machine into the wall, and then the machine takes the ghost spirits and then it slaps them onto portraits that you hang in a gallery, and that's how you keep track of your progress. And then there's 100 boos, and that's kind of like the Mario version of the stars in this game. And then after you get the 100 boos, then you can move on to fight like the big boss or whatever. So there's 3 types of enemy basically. And these themed rooms are really cool because, like, so for example, you go to fight mom, and to get the ghost activated, you have to draw back the curtain, and then she goes, "Oh, there's a breeze in here." And then she gets out of bed, and then you like zap her, and then you start the fight. And then the baby, to start the baby encounter, you have to like rock his rocking horse back and forth. Or there's like a weightlifter guy, and you have to like slap a punching bag and it hits him in the face, and then he gets mad at you. So like there's just all these little creative rooms, and each one of these areas is like super detailed, and the set design is really, really well done. And if we're going to compare it to like Sunshine, which is my obvious comparison, because Sunshine's like the other 3D platformer style game, like adventure game that came out on this console, Sunshine in comparison is way less detailed in the terrain. So you go into a room in Luigi's mansion, and like you see like the candelabras, and like there's all these little nooks and crannies, and it's a smaller area by far, but like they really packed every scene with just little odds and ends. Like I can think of like when you go to the conservatory and there's the music ghost, like there are like 9 instruments in the room, and as you slap each instrument, it'll start playing the Mario theme on that instrument. So you like hit the organ and it'll start going do 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 do, and when you hit the drums, it'll go boom 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 boom, and then you start getting the full band playing, and then the ghost appears on the piano, and then the ghost will ask you like, "What song am I playing?" And it'll either play like Super Mario Bros. 3, I think, or it'll play the underwater theme. So it's really like cool little tidbits like that in each and every one of these rooms.
I was just gonna say, I never thought of the rooms like you said, you were running the rooms and then like or you're running the hallways and then each room is basically like a level. I never thought of it kind of like as the hallways as like the world map, and you're going into each level as a room. I never thought of it like that.
Yeah. Yeah, because each time you like beat a wing, you unlock enough keys to open up more of the
Mhm.
mansion, which is the
Well, the
equivalent of
new
like you
area.
getting like all the
Yeah.
stars needed to move to the new
Yeah.
area. So like that's kind of how you progress through the game, is like all these doors are locked and you have to turn the lights on by beating ghosts, and then you have to get the keys to unlock the rest of the mansion. So each one of these is just like, it's a much smaller game in scale, compared to Sunshine, but they packed each one of these areas is so densely packed, and each one of them is so carefully thought out, and like the theme and everything, that I think they just did such a beautiful job with this, and it was just such a fun title to just, it's like a visual feast for the eyes. There's much more exploration and like appreciation for the artwork in this than there is in Sunshine.
Cory, I have no idea what you're going to say for your final thoughts, because you're putting so much into this. And I'm so glad for it, because everything you're saying are thoughts that are just echoing in my mind, but I didn't know how to express it this way.
Yeah, so I mean, I did my playthrough, and I got through it all, and you run around and you find all these little bits that show you like, like you find Mario's hat, and it's there, everything has like little silly uh dialogue on it too. So like you find Mario's hat in the laundry room and it's like, it's Mario's hat, it's been freshly laundered, stuff like that. So you find all these little clues and then you end up like getting into the cellar, I think, at one point, and then you see Mario trapped in a painting and Mario talks to you. He doesn't use words, but it spells out like, Luigi, you gotta help me, get out of here. And then you find out Mario's trapped in here, and then you set about like the adventure of like, oh, I gotta rescue my brother. So that's kind of the whole MacGuffin that you're dealing with. But yeah, like just there's so much like detail throughout the game, and it's just so charming and well done. I played with console, so I had console controls. I didn't have to deal with a touch screen or anything. So that might make my experience a bit better than your guys's in that regard, but I still think that the gameplay held up really well, and it is real touch and go as far as like holding on to the ghosts and stuff, and that's kind of the challenge of the game. So like the rooms are filled with junk, there'll be tables in the way, or there'll be furniture or what have you, or there'll be like other ghosts running around the room, and the object of the game is to hold on to these ghosts, much like in Ghostbusters, where if you break the stream, Slimer runs through the wall, or the Boo will run through the wall, and now you have to chase this guy into another part of the mansion using your ghost radar.
Which I did think was cool.
Yeah, and that's just one of the coolest things about it. It's like, okay, but so it'd be like if you were like fighting a piranha plant boss on one of the stages of Mario, and then suddenly like he's on the moon level, It's like it's just the ghost runs into a different room completely, and now you have this different area of the house that you have to like scavenge through to find him again.
I like that. I think that is such a great way to put it, because it does add this unique element to each encounter that if you screw up, you're going to have to start this encounter all over again somewhere else.
Which, like I mentioned, like some of these things I was kind of falling asleep during. There were a few times where I had to chase it into another room because like I dozed off and I'm like, oh.
Yeah, and I could see that getting tedious, like if you're constantly running into that problem. But it's very much incentive for you to like really keep on the ball, right, because it becomes this like really maddening game of hide and seek if you screw up, and I think it's just a lot of fun.
That's really well said. And let's kind of close it there, take a break, and when we come back, we'll discuss our final thoughts, which, Cory, I think you already crushed them, but I do have some questions for you, and we'll get to those in a moment. All right, everyone, I hope you enjoyed that music. Cory, while I was putting all this together, I asked for your opinions on which tracks should be used in the game, and you made the comment, quote, "On a side note, I forgot what an absolute dissonant nightmare this game is orally," end quote. Care to expand on that?
Everything in this game, so the concept of dissonance is things that basically you're playing a bunch of opposing chords in audio that make it sound funky or unpleasant in some way. And that's what this game is. Everything in this game is just like minor chords and weird, mishmashes, and it's just a lot of like the like horrible theremin sounds. This title is just the really, really well done to just kind of make your skin crawl.
I can see that, and it does,
and it fits the atmosphere.
Yeah, it's the design by design, but it's just there's no upbeat song in this game.
Oh no, yeah.
Like there's no like dun 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 dun. There's none of that, right? It's all just like like just it's very unsettling throughout the entire thing.
I love it though, and I think it's so charming.
No, yeah, it's fun. It's a wonderful ride from start to finish, and it kind of calls to mind like Disney's Haunted Mansion and other things in that vein, where it's like spooky, scary skeletons. Like it's not meant to be a pleasant experience, and I just think they did a wonderful job in that regard.
Well, why don't you just keep it going? Tell us your final thoughts on the game. And I know you already hit up on so much of it, but if you can just kind of condense it and give us that beautiful package that you outlined earlier.
Bring it home.
How best to put this? Luigi's Mansion is a detailed, colorful experience full of whimsy and adventure as you play the role of the younger brother in the Mario Bros. Franchise, and it's a wonderful time.
Well said. So for me, I think that this game is definitely worth a playthrough if you can find it, because it's going to be a little more difficult now. You either have to play the GameCube version on a GameCube itself or the Wii. And of course, the eShop has shut down for the 3DS, so now you're stuck with buying physical.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Yeah, that might actually be kind of tricky for some people, huh?
Get off eBay for 7 cents, or go dumpster diving at like your local
$3.
store.
$3 for an open cart.
Yep,
It's worth it. I think it's worth it
Oh!
because it's
Can we also mention that Bowser's here too?
kind of. Are we gonna spoil the end?
Oh, should we?
No,
All right,
go
cut
for
this
it. Go
out.
for
No,
it.
it's
No.
ruined now.
Let's just.
Oh, well, King Boo, like, he, what's the word? He
Oh, and this is also the
possesses-
introduction to King Boo.
King Boo's here, but he possesses a painting, and it's got Bowser inside of it, and you have to fight a Bowser while fighting King Boo.
So one of the things I was going to talk about was those paintings, and I always thought it was like really weird that most of these ghosts are just hanging out. Like they're not malicious. They're just kind of doing what ghosts do and just trying to exist. But you're like, nope, not going to have it. I'm putting you in a damn painting. And that's what you do. And you put them into this tank and it spits them out as a painting, just like Mario was transformed into. But Professor Egad hangs them up in a gallery, at least on the 3DS version.
We didn't even talk about Egad either.
Yeah, he's weird.
Oh yeah.
He's so fun. Yabbo yabbo. Just such a little weird guy.
And one other thing that made this not feel like other Mario games was the fact that him, specifically, he does not, like, he would not fit in any other Mario game.
Well, no, but that happens a lot of times. They make characters that are specific to titles, and then sometimes they reappear, and sometimes they don't.
But I love Professor Egad. I think he's quirky and unique. And
He's
fun
a weird little
and
guy.
yeah, he's just great. And in the 3DS version, you have the option of using an amiibo, and so I don't have a new 3DS that's out of the package. I have one in the box, but my 3DS is one of the older ones, so it doesn't have the amiibo functionality. But supposedly, you can get Luigi, who's, for Chris, if you don't know, he started off in Luigi's Mansion 3.
Was it Dark?
I
Whatever.
know him
Was he in Dark
from
Moon?
I know him from Mario parties.
So I don't remember if he came from Luigi's Mansion 2, but I know for a fact he's in Luigi's Mansion 3. And I wish I had a new 3DS that I could have, tried out that new aspect of the game, because I have a custom Luigi amiibo that I got off Etsy.
Cool. But he was Luigi's Mansion 3, I looked. But yeah, they added co-op for this game for the 3DS remake.
Yeah, I just wish I could have experienced that. I think that would have been a lot of fun. But to close out my thoughts on this, I love this game. I don't care too much for the second one, but I haven't played it on the Switch yet, which I definitely need to knock that off my list. But I have played through the third one its entirety, and I really enjoy that game. I love this franchise. I think it's a lot of fun. So Chris, I hope that maybe you'll go ahead and try some of the other games.
I'll keep chipping away at this one
No, you won't.
through the end of October.
Yeah, Chris, we know you're not going to.
Spooky season.
But try the other
Chris,
ones.
how's that copy of Shining Force going?
I already told you I lost where I was in the storyline, and you guys gave me permission to say
Yeah, because you would have never figured it out. You're probably
Yes.
like before the chess fight, even.
can't remember.
Well, regardless, Chris, what are your thoughts?
Oh man, I don't want to be the negative guy.
Listen, no, it's okay because you're giving the rational adult perspective while we're being fun children.
Yeah, I think you guys are definitely stuck on the nostalgia side of it. If you don't have nostalgia and you don't have, like, the best way I can put it is if this was not a Mario title, if this was Charlie goes into a mansion to save his brother and it was all just generic characters and no ties to the Mario whimsical universe or anything, don't imagine it would have been as popular.
Honestly, I will argue that because I think it stands on good merit. I mean, I'm sure it would have been less popular because he didn't have a name tie-in to slap on it, but I think it's.
But I mean, a lot of the joy that you got from this game was all the little Easter eggs and all the little trinkets that you find and all the.
But it's the exploration and the design that really like draw me into this. It's not necessarily the fact that it's Mario based. It's the fact that like they made this really wonderful detailed world and they stuck me in the middle of it. I mean, because a lot of the things that I love about this aren't even like the fights with the boos aren't anything to write home about. Like you're capturing boos. Like all the fun fights are based on like the weird ghosts that live in this house. Like you're flushing out this haunted. If this was Disney's Haunted Mansion, the game, or if it was Super Ghouls and Ghosts 3D or whatever, I'd still have the same amount of fun with this. I mean, like even if you looked at this from the perspective of a Ghostbusters knockoff, which is kind of what it is, because everything is heavily drawing from that franchise, whether it's sticking them in the machine or the fact that they fly through walls and you have to chase them around the building or whatever. Like it, I like it based on the game, not necessarily the franchise.
Not just on the nostalgia. Okay.
I think that was really well said. Chris, do you have anything else that you want to add to this?
No, no, not really. It's not a badly made game or anything like that. I'm not saying that. It just didn't hold my interest. That's all.
It's not your cup of tea, which is perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's perfectly fair. All right, guys, thank you so much for your thoughts. For all of you out there, I hope that you enjoy this game. And our next game is going to be Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link, for the Nintendo Entertainment System, the OG, the original Nintendo, or the regular Nintendo, like I used to call it back in the day. So, guys, thank you so much. We've done 3 years of this. I can't believe that we've been doing this long.
Oh, the anniversary was in September, wasn't it?
Isn't that crazy?
It was, yeah, man. Yeah, it's unreal that we've been doing this for so long. We've had, some slower patches here and there, but that's just life.
Chris has put up with me for 3 years. This is wild.
I've been putting up with you for longer than that.
It's phenomenal. Well, you guys have been great. Chris, Cory, thank you so much for sitting down and doing this with me. All of you out there, thank you for listening. I can't thank you enough. And I hope that you stick around and enjoy our next show. To all of you out there, thank you so much. We've been Superannuated Starman.
Bye.
Mario!
Mario!